First contact protocols. The Commonwealth warship Vigilant hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, its obsidian hull absorbing both light and sensor suites with equal efficiency. Captain Elena Santos stood at the bridge's observation window, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the massive alien fleet materialize from hyperspace. 73 vessels of varying sizes and configurations, all bristling with weapons that her ship's AI had already cataloged and analyzed. They're earlier than intelligence predicted, Lieutenant Commander James Chen remarked from his tactical station. The Concordia's expansion into this sector wasn't supposed to begin for another 3 months. Elena nodded, her expression neutral despite the gravity of the situation. Humanity had watched the Concordia, a coalition of 17 spacefaring species, expand across the galaxy for the past century. They claimed to bring civilization and order to primitive species, uplifting them into their hierarchy through a combination of technological gifts and cultural assimilation. What they actually brought was subjugation dressed in diplomats' robes. Status of our stealth systems? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. The Vigilant represented the pinnacle of human engineering, a warship that could hide in plain sight. Operating at optimal efficiency, Captain, Chen replied. Their sensors are actively scanning, but they're getting nothing but background radiation. We might as well be a shadow. The alien fleet arranged itself in a standard search pattern, spreading out across the star system like a net meant to catch something. They were looking for signs of technological civilization, unaware that they were being watched by the very quarry they sought. Multiple encoded transmissions between their vessels, reported Lieutenant Sarah Paddle from communications. They're discussing settlement plans for this system. They believe it's unclaimed. Elena allowed herself a small smile. This particular system had been under human protection for over 50 years, home to a pre-spaceflight civilization that humanity had carefully shielded from external interference. The Concordia was about to learn that their assumption of galactic superiority was built on dangerously incomplete information. Incoming transmission from Fleet Command, Patil announced. Priority 1. The holographic display materialized in front of Elena, showing the stern face of Admiral Helena Chen. Captain Santos, the Coalition Council has made its decision. You are authorized to proceed with First Contact Protocol 7. Elena felt her pulse quicken. Protocol 7. Direct intervention. After centuries of watching from the shadows, humanity was finally ready to step into the light. Understood, Admiral. Any additional parameters? Try not to start a war, Helena replied with a hint of dry humor, but make it clear that we're not accepting any more encroachment into protected space. The Concordia needs to understand that there are older powers in the galaxy than they realized. Acknowledged. Elena turned to her crew, noting the mixture of excitement and apprehension on their faces. Battle stations. Disengage stealth systems on my mark. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, each member knowing their role in the carefully choreographed dance that was about to unfold. The Vigilant was about to shatter the Concordia's worldview, and Elena intended to make the revelation as dramatic as possible. Tactical, prepare a demonstration package, something impressive but non-lethal. She paused, considering. Let's show them what a real warship looks like. Chen's fingers danced across his console. Package ready, Captain. Their flagship is in optimal position for maximum psychological impact. Elena took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, building up their strength while watching potential threats expand across the stars. The Concordia's policy of uplifting species had destroyed countless unique cultures, replacing them with pale imitations of their own civilization. It ended today. Disengage stealth systems. Now. The Vigilant shimmered into visibility less than 10 kilometers from the Concordia flagship, its 2-kilometer length dwarfing the alien vessel. The ship's outer hull, composed of materials that defied conventional physics, reflected the starlight with an almost organic quality. Weapon ports that could unleash forces capable of reshaping solar systems remained closed, for now. "They're going to panic," Chen observed, watching the alien fleet's formation dissolve into chaos. Their sensors just went from reading empty space to detecting power signatures that shouldn't be possible according to their understanding of physics. "Let them panic," Alina replied calmly. "Open a channel to their flagship. All frequencies, all languages in our database. Let's introduce ourselves." The alien fleet's reaction was predictably militant. Weapons powered up, shields snapped into place, and dozens of targeting systems locked onto the Vigilant. Alina allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Let them try to look tough. They had no idea what they were facing. "Channel open," Paddle reported. Alina straightened her uniform and stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of centuries of human advancement and preparation. "This is Captain Alina Santos of the Commonwealth Warship Vigilant. You have entered protected space. The species you intended to uplift is under our protection, as are numerous others in this sector. We've watched your expansion for a long time. Concordiat. Now it's time for us to talk." The response was immediate. A burst of panicked communications between the alien vessels, followed by a tense silence. Finally, a response came through, the translator rendering an alien voice into clear English. "This is High Commander Zextal of the Concordiat Expansion Fleet. Your presence, your ship, this is impossible. No civilization at this technological level could have escaped our notice." Alina smiled. "High Commander, you're about to learn that there's a lot about this galaxy that has escaped your notice. I suggest you power down your weapons. They won't help you here, and we have much to discuss about the future of galactic civilization." The real shock would come later, she knew, when the Concordiat learned that the Vigilant wasn't even close to the most advanced ship in humanity's fleet. This was just the beginning. The day when humanity finally stepped out of the shadows and took its place as guardians of galactic diversity. The game of cosmic hide and seek was over. Now, the real challenges would begin. The weight of history. The conference room aboard the Vigilant felt too small for the weight of history about to unfold within it. Captain Alina Santos sat at one end of the polished obsidian table, facing the Concordiat delegation. High Commander Zextal's crystalline form caught the room's soft lighting, refracting it in patterns that danced across the walls. His delegation included representatives from 3 other species, a methane-breathing Vorax, a silicon-based Tari, and a humanoid Nexian. "You claim to have been watching us," Zextal began, his translator rendering his harmonic speech into crisp English. "For how long?" Alina activated the room's holoprojector. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy materialized above the table, with thousands of points of light marking inhabited systems. "We detected your first faster-than-light experiments 400 years ago. We've been monitoring your expansion ever since." The Nexian representative, Ambassador Kira, leaned forward. "Impossible. Our historical records show we were the first species to achieve FTL travel in this sector, barely 200 years ago." "Your records are incomplete," Alina replied. She gestured, and the map zoomed in on a particular spiral arm. "Humanity achieved faster-than-light travel 700 years ago. But we weren't the first. We learned from the remnants of civilizations that came before, civilizations that your uplifting program has been systematically erasing." The accusation hung in the air like a drawn weapon. The Vorax representative's atmosphere suit hissed as it adjusted to their agitation. "You speak of things you don't understand." They bubbled through their translator. "The Concordiat brings progress, unity. You bring homogenization," Alina cut in. She tapped another command, and the hologram shifted to show archaeological data. "These are the ruins of the Siri civilization on Kepler 186f. They developed a unique crystalline computing architecture that could have revolutionized galactic technology. Instead, your uplift program forced them to abandon it in favor of your standardized systems. Their entire technological heritage lost." Zextal's crystalline form dimmed slightly, a sign of discomfort Alina's technology training supplied. If what you say is true, why hide? Why watch from the shadows as we supposedly committed these cultural destructions? Alina's expression remained neutral, but her voice carried centuries of carefully contained anger. Because we learned from humanity's greatest mistake. Would you like to know what really happened to Earth? The alien delegates shifted uneasily. Earth, humanity's homeworld, was a mystery to the galaxy at large. The planet that had supposedly given birth to this hidden power was perpetually shrouded in defensive systems that made detailed observation impossible. When humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel, we were eager to join the galactic community. Too eager, we discovered the ruins of an ancient civilization in a nearby system and broadcast our findings to the stars, proud of our discovery. Alina's fingers tightened on the table's edge. The response came within months. A species called the predecessors, far more advanced than anything you've encountered, arrived in our solar system. They declared us too primitive to handle such knowledge and attempted to forcibly guide our development according to their plans. The holoprojector showed a new image, Earth surrounded by a sphere of energy that defied analysis. We fought back. The war lasted decades. We won, but at a terrible cost. Earth's biosphere was nearly destroyed. The defensive sphere you see today, it's not keeping people out. It's keeping the planet alive while it heals. The predecessors are gone now, but humanity learned its lesson. We would never allow another species to dictate the development of civilization. Ambassador Kira's face had lost its color. You're saying you destroyed a species more advanced than yourselves. How? We did what humanity does best. We adapted, we innovated, and we refused to submit. Alina gestured, and the hologram showed the Vigilant in cross-section. This ship incorporates technology we developed during that war. Technology we've spent centuries refining while watching for others who might repeat the predecessors' mistakes. And you believe we are repeating those mistakes? Zextal asked quietly. We know you are. But unlike the predecessors, you're doing it out of ignorance rather than malice. That's why we're revealing ourselves now, to give you a chance to change course before it's too late. The Terry representative, who had been silent until now, spoke in clicks and whistles that the translator rendered in measured tones. You speak of protecting diversity, yet you threaten us with superior force. How does this make you different from these predecessors? Alina smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because we're not here to control you or guide you. We're here to show you what you've been destroying. Your 17 species working together have achieved remarkable things, but imagine what could be accomplished if you allowed the species you uplift to develop their own unique technologies and cultures. Imagine learning from them instead of forcing them to learn from you. She stood, her uniform catching the light in a way that reminded the delegates of predator scales. We've prepared detailed records of 23 civilizations in your territory whose unique developments were erased by your standardization protocols. Review them. Consider what was lost. Then we'll discuss the future of galactic civilization, not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. The delegates were silent, processing the weight of what they'd learned. Their civilization, which had thought itself the pinnacle of progress, was being forced to confront the possibility that they had been the destroyers rather than the builders they believed themselves to be. And if we refuse to change our methods? Zextal asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Then you'll learn why the predecessors are no longer among the stars, Alina replied simply. But I don't think it will come to that. You're not evil, High Commander. Just limited in your perspective. We're here to broaden it. The meeting concluded shortly after, leaving the Concordia delegation to return to their fleet with data crystals containing humanity's evidence. As Alina watched their shuttle depart, Lieutenant Commander Chen joined her at the observation window. Think they'll make the right choice? He asked. Alina watched the shuttle disappear into the flagship's landing bay. They'll have to. because now they know they're not alone in the dark anymore. And the shadows they've been casting across the galaxy, they're about to learn that light can be the greatest disinfectant. The real work was just beginning. Centuries of institutionalized cultural destruction wouldn't be undone overnight, but humanity had waited in the shadows long enough. It was time to build something new. A galaxy where diversity was strength, and every species could reach for the stars in their own unique way. Battle lines. Alarms blared throughout the Vigilant as Elena sprinted onto the bridge. Report. 3 Concordiat battle fleets just emerged from hyperspace. Chen announced, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. 217 vessels total. They're taking up attack positions. Elena had expected this. The Concordiat's leadership hadn't taken well to the revelation of their cultural crimes, or to the implication that they weren't the supreme power they'd thought themselves to be. Pride and fear were a dangerous combination. Message from the Concordiat's Supreme Command, Lieutenant Patil announced. Text only. The message appeared on Elena's command console. Submit to Concordiat authority immediately. Further interference in our uplift protocols will be met with overwhelming force. They really didn't learn anything from our last conversation, did they? Elena murmured. She squared her shoulders. Signal the Bastion and the Aegis. It's time to show them what overwhelming force really means. Space rippled on either side of the Vigilant as 2 more Commonwealth warships dropped their stealth fields. The Bastion, a fortress ship nearly 5 kilometers long, and the Aegis, a sleek destroyer that seemed to bend light around its hull. 3 ships against 200, but numbers had long since ceased to be the determining factor in space combat. Multiple weapon locks from the Concordiat fleet, Chen reported calmly. They're charging main batteries. Energy readings suggest they're planning to fire everything they have. Let them, Elena replied. Tactical, activate the Mobius shield. Communications, broadcast on all frequencies. She took a moment to compose her thoughts before speaking. This is Captain Santos to all Concordiat vessels. Your show of force is noted, but unnecessary. We gave you the chance to approach this diplomatically. Remember that whatever happens next, you chose this path. The response came in the form of energy beams and plasma torpedoes, enough firepower to crack a small moon. They struck the invisible barrier of the Mobius shield and vanished. There was no explosion, no light show, not even a ripple in space. The attacks simply ceased to exist. Shield status, Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Operating at 99.97% efficiency. Chen replied with a slight smile. The attack was registered as a minor power fluctuation. The energy has been successfully shunted into null space. The Concordiat fleet's attack faltered as they processed what they'd just witnessed. Their most powerful weapons had accomplished nothing. Less than nothing. Before they could regroup, Elena gave her next order. Deploy the Aurora arrays. From the 3 Commonwealth ships, clouds of what appeared to be luminescent dust emerged, spreading through space like cosmic auroras. The Concordiat vessel's engines sputtered and died as the quantum-entangled particles interfered with their power systems. All enemy vessels are experiencing complete power failures, Chen reported. Life support and emergency systems only. Their fleet is effectively neutralized. Elena nodded. Open a channel to their flagship. Visual this time. Let them see who they're dealing with. The main screen activated, showing the panicked bridge of the Concordiat command ship. Supreme Commander Yaxter, a towering insectoid being, faced the camera with admirable composure given the circumstances. Now that I have your attention, Elena began, let's discuss the future of galactic civilization again. But this time, you're going to listen. What did you do to our ships? Yaxter demanded, mandibles clicking in agitation. We introduced them to something you've forgotten how to recognize. Truly advanced technology. Technology that developed along a different path than yours. The kind of technology that might have emerged from some of the civilizations you've been standardizing. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing the aurora array's operation. These particles were developed based on theoretical work done by the Siri. Yes, the same ones whose crystal computing research you dismissed. We saw the potential in their work, even if you didn't. That's the price of enforcing uniformity, Supreme Commander. You blind yourself to possibilities that don't fit your preconceptions. You could have destroyed us, Yaxter observed, their voice carrying a new note of respect and fear. Yes, Alina agreed simply, just as you could have destroyed countless unique approaches to science and technology. The difference is, we choose not to destroy what we don't immediately understand. She leaned forward, her voice taking on an edge of steel. Here's what's going to happen next. The Concordiat will immediately suspend all uplift operations. Joint human Concordiat teams will evaluate every species you've contacted, assessing what cultural and technological heritage has been lost. Where possible, we'll work to restore what was destroyed. Where it's not possible, we'll ensure it never happens again. You cannot simply, Yaxter began, but Alina cut them off. We can, and we will. But not because we're stronger than you, though we clearly are. We'll do it because it's necessary for the future of all spacefaring civilizations. Diversity isn't just some abstract concept, Supreme Commander. It's the key to survival. Every unique approach to technology, every different way of thinking about the universe, they all contribute to our collective ability to face whatever challenges the cosmos holds. She softened her tone slightly. We're not your enemies, Supreme Commander. We could have revealed ourselves with violence, could have torn your fleet apart instead of simply neutralizing it. We choose cooperation, even now. But make no mistake, the age of Concordiat supremacy is over. The question is whether you'll help us build something better in its place. The bridge was silent as Yaxter considered their options. Finally, they spoke. And if we agree to these terms, will you share your technology with us? Alina smiled. Better. We'll help you rediscover the technologies you've been stepping on. Together, we'll see what wonders can emerge when we nurture diversity instead of suppressing it. As she spoke, the aurora arrays began to dissipate, gradually restoring power to the Concordiat fleet. It was a calculated risk, but a necessary one. Trust had to begin somewhere. Your ships will have full power back in 30 minutes, Alina announced. I suggest you use that time to contact your government and explain the new reality of galactic politics. We'll be waiting. The communication ended, leaving the bridge crew of the Vigilant in contemplative silence. Humanity had just forcibly changed the course of galactic civilization, not through destruction, but through a demonstration of such overwhelming superiority that even the proudest species would have to acknowledge the wisdom of cooperation. Think they'll actually change? Chen asked quietly. Alina watched the Concordiat ships slowly regaining power. They don't have a choice. The galaxy is bigger and older than they imagined, and they've just been shown that their way isn't the only way, or even the best way. Change is coming, whether they're ready or not. The real challenge would begin now. Reshaping a galactic civilization would make their previous centuries of waiting seem simple by comparison. But humanity had learned patience in the shadows. They could afford to be patient in the light as well. The price of pride. The grand chamber of the Concordiat Council was silent as the holographic display faded. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, representatives of all 17 member species sat in stunned silence, processing the reality of their situation. The recording of the fleet's defeat had shaken them to their core. Supreme Commander Yaxter stood before them, their chitinous armor dulled with exhaustion. As you have seen, the humans possess technology that makes our most powerful weapons meaningless. But more concerning is their evidence. With a gesture, they'd brought up another hologram. This one showing the historical records humanity had provided. Hundreds of civilizations, each with their own unique path of development, all altered or destroyed by the Concordiat's standardization protocols. We have been blind, Yaxter continued. In our drive for unity and progress, We became the very thing we originally formed this council to prevent. Destroyers of culture, suppressors of innovation. First speaker Rixna, the eldest of the crystalline collective, rose from their seat. Light refracted through their form in patterns of distress. This is unacceptable. The Concordiate cannot simply surrender to these hidden watchers. Our way has brought stability to countless worlds. Stability through conformity. A new voice rang out. The chamber's doors had opened silently, admitting Captain Elena Santos and a small delegation of human representatives. But at what cost? The council erupted in shocked whispers. No outsider had ever entered the grand chamber uninvited. Elena strode forward, her uniform seeming to absorb the chamber's light in impossible ways. "How dare you enter this sacred space?" Rixna thundered, their crystalline form blazing with inner light. Elena's smile was razor-sharp. "Your security systems are impressive, but they're based on principles we mastered centuries ago. Just like your weapons, your sensors, your shields, all derived from a single technological lineage. But the universe is vast, and there are countless paths to advancement." She reached into her pocket and withdrew what appeared to be a simple crystal. This was created by a species you uplifted 50 years ago. The Myrians. Before you forced them to adopt your technology, they were developing quantum computational systems based on organic crystal growth. Their approach would have revolutionized artificial intelligence within decades. She set the crystal on the central podium, where it caught the light and seemed to dance with inner fire. Instead, they now produce standardized computer cores identical to every other Concordiate world. Their unique insights, their innovative approaches, all lost because they didn't fit your template of how civilization should progress. "Our template brings order," another council member argued. "Without standardization, without control, without them, you might have to accept that you're not the pinnacle of evolution." Elena cut in. Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. "That's what truly frightens you, isn't it? Not our technology, not our power, but the proof that your way isn't the only way. That you've been wrong all this time." The chamber fell silent again. Elena's words had struck at the heart of their civilization's founding principle, the belief that their path was the correct path, the only path to true advancement. "What would you have us do?" Yaxter asked quietly. "Abandon centuries of protocol. Allow chaos to reign." Elena's expression softened slightly. "We're not asking you to abandon everything. Your achievements in unified technological standards have value, but they should be offered, not imposed. The galaxy needs diversity, in thought, in approach, in development. That's what we've been protecting all these centuries." She gestured, and holographic displays sprang to life around the chamber, showing worlds under human protection. On each, unique civilizations were developing along their own paths, creating technologies and societies that defied Concordiate classification. "This is what you've been destroying," she continued, "not through malice, but through blind adherence to a flawed philosophy. We're here to show you another way." First speaker Rixna's crystalline form dimmed in what might have been resignation. "And if we refuse, then we'll continue protecting these worlds from you," Elena replied simply. "But you've seen what that means. Your fleet's defeat wasn't just a demonstration of power, it was proof that technological diversity breeds innovation. Every unique approach you've suppressed might have led to advancements you couldn't imagine." She turned to address the entire council. "We're offering you a choice. Continue as you have, and face increasing resistance from a power you cannot match. Or join us in nurturing the diversity of galactic civilization. Help us preserve and restore what can be saved. Learn from those you sought to teach." The council chamber erupted in discussion, 17 species facing a fundamental challenge to their worldview. Helena watched them debate, knowing that centuries of ingrained beliefs wouldn't change in a single day. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Finally, Yaxter spoke again. "There will be resistance. Many believe too strongly in the old ways." "Of course there will be resistance," Elena agreed. "Change is never easy. But consider this. Every species in this chamber once had its own unique approach to technology, its own path of development. Before the standardization protocols, before the uplift program, what might you achieve if you remembered those paths? The crystal she had placed on the podium suddenly bloomed with light, projecting images of mathematical equations and engineering principles that made several council members lean forward in spite of themselves. The lost innovations of the Mirians proved too fascinating to ignore. "We'll need time," Rixna said, their tone suggesting they spoke for the council. "To consider, to plan, to prepare our people for such changes." Elena nodded. "You'll have it. But understand this, the era of unchecked expansion and forced conformity is over. Humanity has watched from the shadows for centuries. Now they'll watch in the light, and we'll help guide the Concordia toward a better future, not through force, but through example." As she spoke, new holographic displays appeared, showing human ships appearing above worlds throughout Concordiate space, worlds where unique civilizations were developing. A clear message: we are everywhere, we are watching, and we will protect what you would destroy. The price of pride was being paid in the currency of change, and the galaxy would never be the same. A new dawn. 1 year later, the observation deck of the Vigilant offered a view that would have been impossible just 12 months ago. Elena stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching ships from 24 different species moving through space around the newly established Galactic Exchange Station. Some bore the sleek, standardized designs of the Concordiate, but others showed remarkable diversity. Organic ships grown, rather than built, crystalline vessels that seemed to sing through space, and forms that defied easy classification. The Mirian's latest quantum crystal computing core just came online, Lieutenant Commander Chen reported, joining her at the window. "They're already pushing the boundaries of what we thought possible with organic crystal hybridization." Elena nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "And the Concordiate?" "Still struggling with the transition, but making progress. The moderate faction has gained control of the council. They're beginning to see the benefits of technological diversity." He paused, checking his datapad. The first joint research projects are showing promising results. Below them, the exchange station gleamed like a jewel against the void. Its design was deliberately hybrid, part human efficiency, part Concordiate aesthetics, with sections contributed by newly freed species. It stood as a symbol of what could be achieved when diversity was embraced rather than suppressed. "Message from Earth Defense Command." Lieutenant Patel's voice came over the intercom. "They're ready to begin." Elena straightened her uniform. "Right on schedule. Shall we, James?" They made their way to the station's Grand Assembly Hall, where representatives from over 40 species had gathered. Some were former Concordiate members, others were from protected worlds that had chosen to reveal themselves, and a few were entirely new contacts drawn by the promise of genuine exchange rather than forced assimilation. As Elena took her place on the stage, she caught sight of Supreme Commander Yaxter, now serving as the head of the newly formed Division of Cultural Preservation. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, but the former military leader had proven surprisingly adept at their new role. "Distinguished representatives," Elena began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. 1 year ago, humanity emerged from the shadows to challenge the assumption that there was only one path to the stars. Today, we take another historic step. The massive screen behind her came to life, showing a familiar sphere of energy surrounding a blue-green planet. For 700 years, Earth has remained isolated, healing from the wounds of our first contact war. The defensive sphere that protected our homeworld became a symbol of humanity's determination to forge our own path. She paused, letting the significance sink in. Today, that sphere will be lowered for the first time. A collective murmur ran through the assembly. Even the most stoic representatives leaned forward in anticipation. "This is not just a symbolic gesture," Elena continued. "It is a statement of trust in the new order we are building together. Earth's biosphere has finally healed, yes, But more importantly, we believe the galaxy is ready for what we have protected there. The screen showed massive energy projectors powering down. The sphere that had hidden Earth for centuries began to fade. On Earth, we preserved something precious, the original records of how humanity achieved faster than light travel. Not through any single breakthrough, but through the combination of dozens of different approaches. Western science, Eastern philosophy, African resource management principles, indigenous Australian understanding of quantum relationships. It was the diversity of human thought that gave us the stars. The sphere disappeared completely, revealing Earth in all its restored glory. But it wasn't the planet that drew gasps from the assembly. It was what orbited it. Thousands of satellites and stations, each representing a different approach to space technology. Some were clearly ancient, preserved as museums of human innovation. Others were modern, showing development paths that no one had imagined possible. "This is our gift to the galaxy," Elena announced. "Not just our technology, but our understanding of why diversity matters. Every species in this room has something unique to contribute. Every culture has insights that others might never imagine. Together, we can achieve things that no single approach could ever reach." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "The exchange station is just the beginning. We propose the establishment of a new organization, not to govern or standardize, but to protect and nurture the diversity of galactic civilization. Each species will be free to develop along its own path, sharing what they choose, learning what they wish, but never being forced to conform to another's template." First speaker Rixna, who had become one of the strongest advocates for change within the Concordiate, rose to speak. "And what shall we call this new organization?" Elena smiled. "We suggest the confluence, where many streams join to form something greater than their sum, yet each retains its essential nature." The assembly erupted in discussion, but not in fear or anger as they had a year ago. This was the excited exchange of ideas, of possibilities. Species that had been forced into technological conformity were already beginning to remember their original paths, while others were proposing combinations that no one had considered before. Later, back aboard the Vigilant, Elena stood at her familiar spot by the observation window. The Earth was visible now, no longer hidden behind its protective veil. A reminder of both how far humanity had come and why they had chosen to watch and wait for so long. "Was it worth it?" Chen asked quietly. "All those centuries in the shadows." Elena watched as a Mirian organic crystal ship docked with the station, its hull pulsing with possibilities that would have been destroyed under the old regime. Nearby, a Concordiate vessel was being retrofitted with quantum crystals, while a team of human engineers consulted with silicon-based Terry on theoretical physics that neither species fully understood alone. "Look at them," she replied. "Every ship out there represents a different way of thinking, a different approach to the same challenges. The predecessors thought they knew the only way forward. The Concordiate made the same mistake. But humanity," she smiled, "we learned to see the strength in our differences, and now the galaxy is learning too." The Vigilant had been designed to hide in plain sight, to watch from the shadows. Now it stood as a guardian of something far more precious than territory or technology. It protected the right of every species to find its own way to the stars. The game of hide and seek was over. The age of enforced uniformity had ended, and in its place, a new dawn was breaking. One where the light of discovery shone not from a single source, but from countless points of brilliant diversity, each illuminating paths that no one had imagined possible. Together, they would build something greater than any single species could have achieved alone. Not through force, not through standardization, but through the simple recognition that every unique approach, every different perspective, added another piece to the infinite puzzle of understanding the universe. The shadows had served their purpose. Now it was time to walk in the light. End of story.